It's been a busy week. It's been a crazy week. We all fall into this, and Coach Russ has not gotten all 4 chapters consumed. So I always ask you guys, I want your feedback. Well, today I want your help. So I'm looking for you guys to really lead this conversation. I got nuggets in here that I've gotten yet, not all 4 page or all 4 chapters fully consumed. And so I'm looking for you guys to help lead this thing on what's really jumped off the pages at you or the audio books. So that being said, guys, let's hear from you. Who's got something out of the content? Go, Ryan.
So in chapter 4, he was talking about like motivation matters. Like you gotta speed of the leader, speed of the pack is what I got from it. Like that type of mentality. Like you have to bring the energy, you have to bring the motivation that you can push your people into the direction that you want to go with them and empower them to reach the potential that they're going to reach.
Yeah, I always say create the environment for them to achieve the potential that you see in them. That's really what you're doing for, by the way, everybody, your buyers, your sellers, your people, your family, your kids. That's high level leadership. And this section on motivation also talked about manipulation. Again, it goes back to how we started before we even started the recording, that opportunities are going to abound and we're going to take advantage of them, not as a manipulator, what's in it for us, but as a leader and a motivator. So I want to go through these that are on page 69 and 70. This difference between motivation and manipulation. Because motivation is for mutual advantage. We're all going to grow together. Manipulation, it's all about you. Motivation cares about results and the people. Manipulation just cares about the results. And that one really hit me square in the eyes because historically, I've always been a very results-driven individual, thinking I'm doing the right thing, thinking I'm being a great leader, maybe being a little rough around the edges. And when people weren't happy about us getting to the outcome, I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? We got you what you wanted. Well, I really didn't show that care along the journey. And it's really that journey that's going to make the difference between a high-level leader or not. Number 2, one of my favorites. A motivated leader is fueled by love. A manipulative leader is fueled by ego. I want to be seen. I want to be heard. It's all about them versus being all about the other people. Motivational leaders rely on substance, on content, on facts, figure, details, on stuff that's tangible. Somebody who's manipulative is all about style. Look at our history. Look at even the political world, where in that space, a lot of people are about style rather than what they've actually accomplished or going to accomplish for others. Motivated leaders, as Ryan was just talking about before, empowers the people. Manipulators control the people. One way you'll be able to tell that, manipulators tend to talk more. Motivators tend to ask more questions. And of course, the value of people is on the motivation side. Devaluing and talking people down as a manipulator make people feel small. High-level leaders, motivational leaders, foster and promote loyalty. The big piece for them. You'll see someone who's a manipulative leader that resentment starts to boil up in their organization. It's fun because looking at these two in this word leader versus or motivational leader versus manipulative leader goes back through a lens I have. Motivational really is a leader. Manipulative is usually a manager when you look at organizations. That's how they behave. And absolutely, when we talk about roads, your high level leaders are motivational. They take the high road. Your managers are usually taking the low road. The only reason they have power is because of title. That's a manipulative leader. What else are you guys pulling from the content?
Well, let's just start with what you were talking about. We dug into why before, but one thing that he said that when I started to go, wait, was people wanting to be on stage. And I thought, well, I want to. And then I realized I feel like I'm supposed to be on stage. But and so that made me feel better about that. But when it goes back to the word to why, that tends to be more of a selfish question. I'm, just kind of realizing where, the script used to be, well, why do you feel like you need to move or whatever? So, but what is important about that? What led to the decision? What information do you need from me? Because why comes across when it's asked of the recipient. The recipient receives it like, like they have to justify the answer. And unless you've been empowered and you are able to answer, I want it because I want it, or whatever it happens to be, why is a tougher question than what and when and how.
One of my favorite answers for my clients who happen to be in more of a subordinate role, when their leader asks them why, when they use that question, their response is, are you seeking to truly understand what occurred, or are you looking to place blame? And getting them to think about the purpose of that why question. Because you're absolutely right. One other thing on this stage piece, Tom, if someone is a manipulative leader getting on stage, it's ego. It's about them. It's how they look, how they sound, how people are going to judge them. And you're falling into that if you're concerned about being on stage, if you're worried about what you're going to look like on stage, if you're stressed out about speaking, if you get scared before you get on stage, you're in a manipulative mindset. If it's all about them and what you can do for them, it doesn't matter if you show up naked. It's all about taking care of them. Justin, yes, I saw that so hot, brother.
Yeah, that really led me to question, because I have been in that space that you're talking about more often than not. Not always, but more often than not, like an insecure. And I understand what you're saying. So does that get fixed by getting up on stage and doing it anyway, facing that fear, or does that get fixed by fixing your motives prior to the action to lead? That was one of the takeaways, and I'm driving, so I don't know which page it was on.
Justin, here's my quick question.
Yeah.
What requires those two to be diametric and separated?
That's a good question. I don't have a answer for that. So maybe.
So then the answer is actually both.
Both.
The answer is both.
And that was something that I got a handful of takeaways. But when he was talking about his dad, he's in the library. He heard his dad talking to God, and then his dad dropped to his knees, and then he's face down on the floor, and he said, "Fight or forgive," and it was really that was impactful to me, because I mean, I didn't see my dad forgive anybody. I saw my dad hit people with the car. Like I was like, oh, this dude better back down, or my dad's gonna kill him. That's what I thought, and that was what I thought for me. But then on the next page, when he brings that to his father says, that's not the way we do leadership. So it's doing, not like you just are. The doing is part of the being. So that was my big takeaway from the chapter.
Yeah. Well, and that's good stuff
Awesome.
because again, this forgiveness piece, which I know was also in chapter 3 on forgiving yourself. I even said one of the things just off my memory that was page 58 because I was talking to another one of our compadres about that this morning. Is probably the most powerful tool you have. Your ability to truly forgive yourself, most importantly. I loved how he went through that section talking about all the things that he screws up on a regular basis. You know, that he's a klutz, that he spills, that, you know, food on himself, that he's technologically inept. I mean, we could list and he could list all his flaws. And one, just acknowledge and forgive himself for that. And two, taking it to the next level, which was section 4, laughing at yourself. I am a firm believer in a creator, in God. And my God makes perfection. No doubt about that. On the same side, though, he's got an incredible sense of humor. And the things that I do and the decisions I make and some of the things that my history has, I just get to laugh at that those were the lessons put in front of me that I got to stumble through. Jeanette, your mic's hot. What do you got, my dear?
I just, looking back at this, why you want to lead, because it is an important question to ask. And I thought, Doug and I were talking about that this morning too. And it's like, well, why do I want to lead? I'm going, well, it's nice to be a leader because it's up there. But then when you start getting into the meat of why you want to lead, it's going, do I want that responsibility? And so there's a self-assessment in there, especially if you're not feeling worthy or prepared or whatever. But, it's interesting in anything that we do, we just need to take our eyes off ourselves for a moment and go, is somebody following me? And the fact is that everybody has somebody who's looking to us and following us. So we're a leader whether we choose to be or not. It's not an option because people, like I said, people are following. People are seeing what you're doing and making choices based on that. So let myself be at peace with that. And so now, since it's going to happen, I might as well figure out what it is and be the best and learn how to be the best I can be. What does this look like? So it's because everything about that we've said about wanting to be on the stage and wanting to be the leader, want the attention, is very, I mean, that's true. And then there's this other part. It's like, I'm leading. And if we're leading because we've got clients, we're leading because we've got listings, we're leading because we've got friends who follow or who look to us. If somebody asks for a question, yesterday somebody called me because her daughter had just her underage daughter had just been approached by a 30-year-old who knew she was still in high school. And so we got to talk through that part and help the mother come to a place of separating, learning the difference between fear and what's an instinct. It's like, I didn't get that separation understanding until we did one of these books. And it gave me a clarity on that. It's like, here, this instinct is a good, but don't let the fear capture her and tie her up at that age. And even for the mother to do that. So we're leading wherever we go. This
Absolutely.
is a valuable place. This is a priceless place for us to be able to talk about it. Thank you. Thank you.
It's great. It's great that we have this acknowledgement. We're leading wherever we go. And now the question is, are we a low road leader, middle of the road leader, or high road leader? Which style of leadership are you bringing to it? I had a great questions with folks in my world on this just this week. I want you guys to be questioning in the moment. Are you doing something with the expectation of something in return? mid or low level, not a high road leader? Are you just pouring in and giving each other resources and helping each other? What else from the content, guys?
So this is Sherry.
Yeah,
Number
Sherry
three.
and then Andres. Got you both.
So number three, stop insisting you're right. This hit close to home to me because I live in a northwest suburb of Minneapolis. I lived the whole thing of the George Floyd going down and them burning down our city. And I mean, being terrified that 20 miles out, I don't know if it's 20 miles, 20-minute drive out, they were coming towards us and there was threats and everything. And so this whole thing of needing to be right and burning down the city because you have to be right just like blows my mind. Okay, yes, let's do justice, but let's do it without killing people and looting stores and everything like that. And it just that is a really good example of insisting that you're right and how people can take that to the extremes. And I'll just share, there's a really good documentary if anybody's interested called The Fall of Minneapolis on YouTube. But our society is so caught up in having to be right and doing stupid things just to be right. And so it's a good reminder to remember. Okay, I'll throw this out. There's a parenting and teaching technique called love and logic. And there's a statement you can say when people are trying to argue with you and they have to be right. And, you know, it's better just to say, you know what, let's just leave it where it is and agree to disagree. I respect you too much to argue with you about things like that. Shuts down the argument. People can't come back to that. And with your children, it's I love you too much to argue with you about things like that. Frustrates the heck out of them because they can't argue and manipulate and everything. But if we had more of that, of like standing down and say, okay, well, we disagree on this. Let's not just escalate and keep going.
The key I want to put on this, Sherry, is all of those words can work the way you want, and the delivery of how you deliver them will be the difference between being a high road leader and a middle or low road leader.
You have to use empathy when you're using them.
I respect you too much to argue with you about that. Okay? Sounds more like an excuse. Truly from the heart, truly empathetic. Hey, you know, I respect our, and rather I respect our relationship too much to allow this to get in the way. The other thing on this section, I really want all of you doing, it's very, very easy to point out and say, look, they're low road leaders. Look, they burned down a city. Look, that's a bad thing. And not be looking at us the same way. One of my favorite ways to adjust this high road versus medium and low road. Medium, low road leaders judge themselves on their intentions and judge everybody else on their actions. Think about that for a moment. You're judging yourself on your intention. You know, I meant to do this. My desire was this outcome. Here's what made me behave that way. And yet anyone else has a bad action and you automatically judge them on the action rather than maybe what was behind it. A high road leader is going to pause, and a high road leader is going to look at those intentions. By the way, a high road leader is going to pause and they're going to look at their actions and maybe reassess their own actions to adjust them in the future.
Would it be?
I'm going to come to Andres first. Hold that thought. Don't lose it. I'm respecting, so you'll be after Andres. Go, Andres.
I just wanted to share a quick story of something that happened to me yesterday that relates to the chapter that we're talking about. And I work closely with this person that used to be in a high-ranking position with VMC, managing company for Pizza Hut, KFC chain. She has a lesser degree, which is managing now just Northern Alabama and Tennessee stores. But working in a different job closely to her, within 2 months, she made me the lead of her team. And yesterday she approached me because one of her staff kind of disrespected her. And she asked me, "Hey, what do you think I should do in this position? Like, I don't want to make it seem that it's personal, and I don't want to get other people involved." And I told her, "Look," she even mentioned, if it was a PMC, that person would have been fired on the spot. And I told her, "Look, this actually I mentioned the book, and I'm like, look, it sounds to me like for the past few months you developed a sense of empathy. Your values to work with the people that you're working here have shifted because you want to give these people an opportunity. You're working with them, helping them for the right reasons. And you feel like you shouldn't get rid of them because you still want to give them the help that they want, that they're looking for, that they're trying to achieve. And you don't want to disregard them just like that." And
Yep.
she came back to me and she mentioned, "You know what? I talked to my boss this morning about it, and he mentioned exactly the same thing. And it's not like you and I have been talking on a daily basis for you to know me and know all these things about me, but just from the short conversations that we have had and all the books that I have read and my interaction with her, I'm able to identify these things that relates back to the high road leadership and how she has adjusted the way she addressed the team that she's working with now." So at the end
Awesome.
of the conversation, she even mentioned to me, "Look, I have one of my stores leaders, managers leaving in the next month or so. I want to give you that position." So,
So one other piece I want to put in here on this, because this does come up in a number of different ways, and I'm going to use it here with disrespected. Who in this room has the ability to disrespect me, to make me feel disrespected? And I'm not seeing a single hand go up, because you're damn right.
no,
Nobody.
Because it's this difference between a life of accountability and a life of victimhood. A life of accountability means you own everything. So you can't disrespect me. I can only choose to be disrespected. And then I get to analyze where that's coming from. It's on me. And by the way, this has been a long, long, long growth journey to get here. This is not something born or overnight, man. My old partner in business on my software, man, disrespect me, did this to me, that to me, man. I was pointing those fingers outward for years
exactly what I told her.
until I got in a great coaching environment who helped me understand my DNA in that process, my acceptance of the process, and again, my ego in the process. Disrespect is, oh, my ego's been damaged. And when you let that go, all of a sudden, So it's just one other thing I want to put in that quiver for you, Andres, to have. And you may want to look up online the path to accountability versus the path to victimhood. A lot of information out there on those two. And this path to accountability is key of a self-sufficient life. Justin, you were next, brother.
So I was just going to add, and this is my take on it. So you may agree or disagree, but I believe people that are operating in the low road and maybe even up into the middle road tend to judge your actions and motives based on their own actions and motives. I think that's kind of like the normal human condition, that if I did that, it would be because I felt this, thought this, wanted that, or whatever. And it's a really evolved or high level thing to stop and ask, like, what would their motive be, or really give anything any consideration. It kind of goes back to the thing, like, it made me think that if I've got people, believe maybe even is a better word for this. There's some people that are very close to me. They want me to lead them. I'd like to lead them, but they're committed to a low road approach. And even if you say things that they understand, that you're trying to bring them up, they'll say, I know what you're doing and you can't manipulate me. Like, even though they know it's good for them, they resist it. And I believe that for me anyway, I need to separate myself from that. And then if I choose to circle back later, once I build myself up to a point where I could be a savior to those people, bail them out of their problem or whatever, I could. However, if I hang out with those people at their level, even in contact with them on a daily basis, it'll stunt my growth so much that I could never lead or get to the level, the altitude that I'm supposed to be at.
Exactly. And here's the fun part in this growth. First of all, wherever you, and I want to go back to what Justin said initially, so we can anchor this, and you may want to write it down. You cannot see in someone else what you do not possess in yourself. Period. You cannot see in someone else what you don't possess in yourself. So whenever you're making these judgments about someone else and how they're behaving or how they're going to respond to something, this story you have of about, gosh, I can't cold call because people are going to be mean to me. It's because that's how you behave. Now, as you grow, it becomes that's how you behaved. You can still see it in other people, yet you've changed your world so you don't do that. So you can't see in others what you don't possess in yourself. So anything you don't like, all you're doing is the universe is holding up a mirror to you, baby. Now you get to grow through that and away from that, just like Justin's talking about. Hey, I'm not going there anymore. I'm distancing myself from that so I don't get sucked back into those normal patterns.